You think she's kind, thoughtful, even a little shy. But something about her doesn't feel right, like you're always walking on eggshells, questioning your own sanity. She smiles sweetly, yet somehow you always end up the villain. That's not love. That's manipulation dressed up as empathy. And today, we're going to pull back the mask. Because the most dangerous narcissist isn't loud. She's quiet. She's the covert narcissist. The covert narcissist doesn't shout. She whispers. Her silence is her weapon, and your confusion is her control. That's what makes her so hard to see, so difficult to expose. She doesn't storm into your life with arrogance and loud demands. She slides in quietly, disguised as empathy, wrapped in politeness, often appearing like the most understanding person you've ever met. But underneath that gentle exterior is a strategy, a psychological game of control played in the softest tones. At first, she seems like the calm in your chaos. She listens deeply, remembers details, and makes you feel seen. You start to trust her, to lean on her. But over time, something subtle shifts. Her warmth cools, her responses get slower, her tone flatter. She starts withholding affection, not enough for you to call it out, just enough to make you wonder what you did wrong. That's how she traps you. You chase her approval, not realizing you've already lost yourself in the silence between her words. She doesn't need to raise her voice. Her disapproval hangs heavy enough to suffocate you. A single sigh, a long pause, or a half smile that doesn't reach her eyes, they all communicate more than an argument ever could. You'll find yourself replaying conversations, trying to decode meanings that were never spoken aloud. That's the brilliance of her manipulation. She gets you to do all the emotional labor. You start apologizing before you even know what for. Her silence teaches you to self-censor. You stop sharing your truth because it always seems to upset her, even when she swears she's fine. You begin to edit your personality, your dreams, your joy, anything that might disturb her delicate ego. And soon, you're living in emotional captivity, walking on invisible eggshells. You start believing that peace means keeping her comfortable, not yourself free. But here's the truth she doesn't want you to know. Her silence isn't power, it's emptiness. It's the void where authenticity should have been. She doesn't know how to connect without control, how to love without dominance, how to speak without manipulation. So she stays quiet, crafting a narrative where she's the calm, wise one, and you're the unstable, dramatic one. That's how she flips the story, by making your emotional honesty look like weakness. When you finally see her silence for what it is, a form of emotional warfare, everything changes. You stop chasing her approval. You stop trying to fix what she never intended to heal. You start listening not to her words, but to your own inner voice, the one she made you doubt. And that's when her power dissolves. Because the covert narcissist can only control those who are afraid of the quiet. Once you can sit in that silence without needing her validation, you win. Her whisper loses its magic, her games lose their grip. And you remember that peace was never found in her approval. It was always waiting in your own truth. She'll play the victim so convincingly that you'll start apologizing for the pain she caused. That's her favorite illusion. The one where she's the wounded soul, the misunderstood heart, the one who tried her best while you're somehow always the problem. The covert narcissist doesn't need to scream to gain sympathy. She crafts stories, half-truths, and subtle distortions that make her appear fragile, compassionate, even noble. She turns guilt into her greatest source of power, and before you know it, you're carrying the emotional weight of her choices. It starts small. She might tell you how much others have hurt her, how people always take advantage of her kindness. You'll feel sorry for her, maybe even protective. That's exactly what she wants. The moment you begin to see her as someone you need to protect, she's already begun controlling the narrative. Then, when she crosses a line, says something cruel, lies, or withdraws emotionally, she'll twist it into a misunderstanding. Suddenly, she's the one in pain. You'll find yourself comforting her, forgetting that she's the one who just wounded you. The covert narcissist knows how to weaponize empathy. She understands that decent people don't like to see others suffer, so she uses that compassion against you. Her tears are tools, her apologies are performances. She might say, "I didn't mean to hurt you, I just care too much," or "You always think the worst of me." Every phrase is carefully designed to make you doubt your perception and feel guilty for even questioning her intentions. It's emotional sleight of hand. While you're focused on her supposed pain, she's quietly avoiding accountability. Over time, this pattern breaks you down. You start to wonder if you're too sensitive, too harsh, too demanding. You start apologizing just to keep the peace, and she thrives on that. Because every apology from you does validation that her performance worked. She doesn't need to dominate you with rage. She manipulates you with pity. That's what makes her so dangerous. She hides behind her goodness. But here's the truth she doesn't want you to realize. She's not a victim of circumstance. She's the author of the chaos. The sadness, the guilt, the endless confusion, they're not accidents. They're the results of her control. And the moment you stop buying into her narrative, she loses her audience. The moment you stop apologizing for her behavior, the spell breaks. When you finally see that her pain isn't always real, that it's often a mask for manipulation, something shifts inside you. You start to separate genuine vulnerability from emotional theater. You begin to see that real victims take responsibility, while narcissists only take attention. And that realization frees you. Because the covert narcissist can only play the victim in a story where you agree to be the villain. Once you step out of that script, she has no stage left to perform on, and you finally reclaim your peace. Her kindness isn't generosity, but it's currency. She gives only to gain. At first, her kindness feels pure, even rare. She seems like the kind of person who goes out of her way to help others, who listens, who supports, who remembers every small detail about your life. You start to believe she's selfless, that she gives because she genuinely cares. But over time, you begin to notice something strange. Her kindness always comes with a price tag. It's never just about helping. It's about control, validation, or image. When she does something nice for you, it feels good, until you realize she's keeping score. The covert narcissist doesn't give from love, she gives from strategy. Every favor, every compliment, every gesture of care is a silent transaction. She wants something in return. Your loyalty, your admiration, your silence, your guilt. And when she doesn't get it, the mask begins to crack. Suddenly, that kind person becomes cold, distant, or passive-aggressive. She'll remind you of everything she's done for you, painting herself as the one who always gives while you never appreciate her. That's how she controls you. Her kindness becomes a tool of manipulation. You start to feel indebted, obligated to repay her emotional generosity. You'll catch yourself saying things like, "She's been so good to me," even when you know she's hurt you. That's the trap. She buys your forgiveness in advance with carefully calculated acts of care. She might bring you gifts, offer advice, or help you when you're down, but underneath it all is an unspoken contract. You owe her. If you ever question her behavior or set boundaries, she'll make you feel ungrateful. "After everything I've done for you," she'll say, and just like that, you're back in her control. The covert narcissist doesn't want connection. She wants leverage. You'll also notice how her kindness shines brightest when others are watching. She's the one volunteering publicly, offering help loudly, posting her compassion online, because it's not about the act, it's about the applause. She doesn't crave genuine intimacy. She craves recognition for being a good person. Her kindness is her costume, and her audience is the world. But behind closed doors, that sweetness fades. When she's no longer being admired, her resentment leaks out in subtle ways. Sarcasm, guilt trips, emotional withdrawal. You'll realize that her so-called generosity only exists when it benefits her ego. And when you stop feeding that ego, her kindness disappears entirely. The hardest part is accepting that what looked like love was actually control. You wanted to believe her heart was genuine, but now you see the pattern. She gives to get. Always. The true measure of generosity isn't how much someone gives, it's how freely they give it without expecting a return. And once you recognize that her kindness was never real generosity, something inside you shifts. You stop feeling guilty for stepping back. You stop trying to repay a debt that never existed. And in that moment, you reclaim something priceless. Your ability to give and receive love without fear, without obligation, and without manipulation. She doesn't destroy your confidence in one blow, she erodes it one innocent comment at a time. That's how the covert narcissist works. She doesn't need to insult you outright or scream to make you feel small. She just plants seeds of doubt so quietly that you start to water them yourself. Her words are soft, almost caring, but they carry a hidden edge. She'll say things like, "You're so sensitive," or "I didn't mean it like that," or "You always overthink everything." Each phrase seems harmless in isolation, but over time they build a prison in your mind, a place where you question your worth, your memory, and your perception of reality. At first, it's subtle. You might laugh off her remarks. When she teases your choices, your goals, or your dreams, she does it with a smile. "I'm just being honest," she'll say, as if cruelty disguised as truth is something noble. She'll point out your flaws as if she's trying to help you, but her help always leaves you feeling smaller, weaker, less sure of yourself. You begin to think she's right and that maybe you are too emotional, too naive, too ambitious. You stop trusting your instincts because she's taught you that your instincts are flawed. The covert narcissist knows that confidence isn't destroyed by one big betrayal. It's broken by 1,000 tiny cuts. Every time she withholds validation, every time she makes you doubt your success, every time she compares you to someone else, she chips away at your self-belief. And when you finally start shrinking, when you lose that spark that once made you feel alive, she pretends to be concerned. "You've changed," she'll say. "You're not as confident as you used to be." As if she wasn't the one who took that confidence from you piece by piece. This kind of manipulation is slow, quiet, and deeply psychological. She wants you to depend on her for approval, to look to her for reassurance that you're still enough. That's how she keeps control. Because if you can't trust your own judgment, you'll always turn to hers. You'll chase her validation like oxygen, not realizing that she's the one tightening the rope around your neck. But here's the truth. The version of you that she's tried to erase is still there. It's buried under layers of doubt, but it's alive. The moment you start recognizing her comments for what they are, control disguised as concern, you begin to reclaim your power. You start hearing the difference between truth and manipulation. You realize that her honesty was never meant to guide you. It was meant to weaken you. Rebuilding your confidence after someone like her isn't easy, but it starts with remembering who you were before her words rewrote your worth. Because once you stop letting her define your value, her voice becomes just noise. And in the silence that follows, you'll finally hear your own strength again. Steady, clear, and unshakable. The covert narcissist doesn't need to be adored. She needs to be seen as good. That's her addiction. Not love, not connection, but image. Everything she does is filtered through one obsessive question: how do I look to others? She builds her identity around appearing virtuous, selfless, or spiritually evolved. To the outside world, she's the model friend, the caring partner, the one who always does the right thing. But behind that carefully polished exterior is a person who cannot tolerate being seen as flawed. Her goodness isn't genuine, it's a performance designed to protect her fragile ego. She lives for perception. When she helps someone, it's not about compassion, and it's about being seen helping. When she apologizes, it's not about accountability, it's about appearing humble. Even her empathy is rehearsed. She'll say the right words, show the right emotions, but if no one's watching, it all fades. Because her moral image is her mask, and without it, she fears exposure. Deep down, she knows that her kindness is conditional, her compassion selective, her light a reflection of how others see her, not who she really is. What's most confusing is how convincing she can be. People adore her. They call her generous, wise, kind-hearted, and you start to believe it too. And even when you've seen the darker side, you've witnessed her gossip, her envy, her silent rage when she isn't praised. But if you ever try to confront her, she'll flip the script. "After everything I do for people, how can you say that?" she'll ask, tears in her eyes, voice trembling just enough to make you doubt yourself. Her goodness is her shield. It deflects accountability and keeps her untouchable. That's the paradox of the covert narcissist. She preaches humility while secretly craving admiration. She'll post about self-love and boundaries while violating yours. She'll talk about forgiveness, but never truly give it. Her morality is selective. It only applies when it benefits her image. And the cruelest part? She'll use that image against you. If you expose her or pull away, she'll paint you as the cruel one, the ungrateful one. After all, how could someone so good be capable of harm? Her need to be seen as good is what keeps her trapped in pretense, and it's what traps those around her too. Because when someone seems so virtuous, it's hard to see the manipulation behind it. But once you do, the illusion shatters. You begin to notice how every act of kindness comes with an undertone of control. You see that her goodness isn't about love, it's about domination through moral superiority. And when you stop feeding that image, when you stop praising her, stop validating her sainthood, you'll watch her mask crack. The warmth fades, the smile tightens, and suddenly the good person turns cold. That's when you realize her goodness was never love. It was leverage. And the moment you stop believing in it, she loses her favorite illusion, the lie that she's the hero of every story, even the ones she ruins. The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment you take your power back. That's the turning point. The moment you stop trying to convince someone who never intended to understand you. With a covert narcissist, every conversation becomes a trap. You try to reason, to clarify, to make them see how their actions hurt you. But no matter how clearly you speak, they twist your words, shift the blame, and make you feel like the problem. They don't want resolution, they want confusion. Because as long as you're defending yourself, you're still dancing to their tune. At first, you think that if you just explain things better, if you stay calm enough, kind enough, patient enough, they'll finally get it. But they won't. They don't listen to understand, they listen to find ammunition. Every detail you share becomes another weapon to use later. You say you're hurt, and they say you're overreacting. You say you need space, and they accuse you of being cold. You tell your truth, and they make you question it. That's how they keep control, by keeping you in the endless loop of justification. The covert narcissist feeds on your need to be understood. They know that you value communication, empathy, and fairness, so they pretend to engage, nodding, listening, even agreeing, until you realize nothing ever changes. You keep talking, and they keep twisting. You keep explaining, and they keep pretending not to get it. Eventually, you start feeling like you're losing your mind. You think, maybe I didn't say it right, maybe it is my fault, but it's not. The problem isn't that you're not communicating clearly, it's that they don't care about truth, only control. And that's why silence becomes your freedom. When you stop explaining, you stop feeding their ego, you stop giving them access to your emotions, your energy, your clarity, you realize that your peace doesn't come from being understood, it comes from understanding yourself. You no longer need them to validate your feelings because you've learned to trust your own perception. At first, that silence feels strange. You might feel guilty or cold for not responding, not defending, but with time, you realize silence isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the refusal to participate in manipulation. Every time you choose not to explain, you're saying, you don't get to define me anymore. That's where your healing begins. When you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, your world gets quieter, but also clearer. You stop chasing closure and start creating peace. You start using your energy not to prove your worth, but to live it. And that's the power the covert narcissist can never take from you. Because once you stop justifying your truth, you step out of their control completely and into the life, the freedom, and the confidence that were always yours to begin with.